today's show is about looking younger, feeling more vibrant, and becoming your own personal trainer and balancing your hormones. We're going to take a look at exercise and how it impacts our health. We're also going to take a look at soy, which I believed was a really, really bad food until I met my guest, Jay Williams. Jay Williams, Ph.D., is an exercise physiologist specializing in medical nutrition. She is the author of the book 24-Hour Turnaround and is spa director at the Manalani Resort on the Big Island of Hawaii. Jay has 26 years of experience in the health and wellness industry as a consultant and an owner of health clubs and spas. She's counseled thousands of clients and is going to talk to us today about improving our health, losing weight, and reducing our biological age. Now, I've met Jay, and at 60, she looks like she's in her 40s. Honestly, when you look at her, you know she's doing something right. And I know you want to hear what she has to say. Welcome to your supernatural life, Jay.
Thank you, Beth. That was quite an introduction. I'm happy to be here and happy to be speaking with you today.
Right. So why did you title your book The 24-Hour Turnaround?
That's a really good question. My book, our workshops, and all the work that we do with people puts an emphasis on the choices, the lifestyle choices we make today and how they can impact us in the next 24 hours. For instance, we know through the choices that we make that we can increase our energy, increase our stamina, we can elevate our moods, and we can even increase the amount of fat-burning enzymes available to our muscles. All of this determined by how we exercise today, what we eat today, the amount of sleep we get tonight, and very importantly, how we deal with stress. So that 24-hour turnaround concept is choices you make today and how they impact you in the next 24 hours.
Terrific. Now, let's talk about what you call the cure-all, which is exercise, the ultimate anti-aging formula. So many of us don't get enough of it. Not enough time, don't like to sweat, or it hurts, or it's not fun. So first, tell us, why is exercise so very important to our well-being and our health?
Well, we used to, as a population here in the United States, hang our hats on all kinds of different concepts, one of them being what we eat and how that's going to affect us. And we put all of our eggs into that basket, thinking that diet was the most important thing to our bodies. And as, you know, medicine has evolved to look at exercise, or shall I say to include exercise, we're seeing more and more through the scientific research that the exercise component is actually 50% of the equation. So
wow, 50%. That's huge.
So
yeah.
50%. So it's really a 50-50 proposition. It's about what we eat, you know, what we eat and what we drink and what we don't eat and don't drink. And then not only whether we exercise, but more importantly, how we exercise, the type of exercise we do and the way that we do it.
Now, you talk about something called zone training, and can you explain this technique?
Yes, Beth, this is the key, or this is what science is showing us, is become very, very specific to the results of our goal. We used to all just throw on our tennis shoes and go out the door and just have at it. And we now know, again, through a lot of scientific research done on both competitive athletes and now honest mere mortals as well, that it's the specificity of our exercise is going to accomplish our goals. And this concept of zone training speaks to the intensity of exercise. So if you were to come to me and say, okay, Jay, I want to reduce my weight or reduce my biological age, what would you recommend in terms of exercise? The two things, Beth, that are most important are, one, intensity, and two, duration. So we would prescribe to you intensity and duration exercise. Intensity meaning how fast your heart is beating while you're performing the exercise. Duration, meaning how many minutes in a row are you performing this exercise at that very specific heart rate. So in our program, Zone Training, when you come to us and say, well, here's my goal, for instance, if you're cardiac rehab, if you just had a cardiac event and you came to us and said, what should I do? My doctor says I need to exercise. We would give you intensity and duration. We would say to you, we need you to exercise at 125 beats per minute for 15 minutes every day. So Zone Training is exactly that. It's specific exercise prescription depending on your goal.
I see. Now, what's wrong with like going for the burn, as Jane Fonda used to tell us, I remember in her exercise videos? That's not in the zone, is it?
Well, it's really not. And back in the day, and I'm close to 60 myself, back in the day, the no pain, no gain attitude towards exercise was very much the philosophy. And of course, the problem is all of us baby boomers, that's the way we performed our exercise. And unfortunately, and it's more of a guy thing, there's many people out there that are continuing to go to the gym, continuing with their exercise program with that attitude of going to the burn, I have to sweat a lot, no pain, no gain. And that is fine in very, very short bursts. But what we're finding now is that high-intensity exercise is actually detrimental in many ways. There's many negative consequences, and one of those consequences is actually that it accelerates the aging process, which is always gets people's attention.
Yeah. Well, you just said something, though, about sweating. So you're saying that it's not really necessary to sweat that much? It's more important to sort of stay in your heart rate? Is that
exactly? Exactly. Well, take this situation for example. Okay, let's say that today your choice of exercise is to get on an elliptical machine, and you're in Alaska and the temperature is very cold and the gym is air conditioned, and you get on the elliptical machine and you go to intensity number 8, and you're going at it, and your heart rate is 130 beats per minute, and because it's cold and because your internal body core temperature isn't going to go as high because of the climate situation, you may not sweat. Whereas if you were in Hawaii and you were on an elliptical machine and you were on the same intensity, going at a heart rate 130 beats per minute, you might be dripping profusely. Sweating is a product of your internal core temperature, trying to keep it low enough so you don't explode and die, basically. So what happens is your body core temperature is absorbed by your blood. The blood goes to small capillaries of the skin, and that is how heat is released through the skin, the largest organ of the body, and it manifests itself as sweat. So if your core temperature isn't high, you won't sweat doing the same amount of exercise.
I see. Well, if you're just joining us, this is Your Supernatural Life. I'm Beth Greer, and I'm speaking with Dr. Jay Williams, exercise physiologist and author of The 24-Hour Turnaround. We're talking about exercise and sweating and losing weight. So let's talk about losing weight. How does working in the zone, your zone training, come into play for weight loss?
Well, for weight loss, Beth, the goal in our exercise intensity is to find a heart rate that's high enough to burn a significant amount of calories, because we know the bottom line is calories in, calories out, and that's going to produce the weight loss. But we also want to be at an intensity that's going to promote a lot of oxygen being sent to the muscle cell, because the more oxygen available to the muscle cell, the higher the percentage of fat that is burned. So in other words, if you were to take your heart rate to, let's say, 150 beats per minute, you may burn a few more calories, but because there's less oxygen available to the muscle, a lesser percentage of those calories is going to be burned from fat. So we want to find that place, which we call Zone 1 training again, where a significant amount of calories is going to be burned, but we want those calories to be burned from fat. And that's how we're going to promote weight loss through exercise.
Okay, now in your book you say exercising 5 times a week for half an hour isn't enough, that it has to be an hour. And I was kind of shocked to hear that, because I thought, well, wow, that's a lot of time. How does the average person fit that in?
Well, good question. That's always a challenge, isn't it, in this day and age where we're all booked about 120% of the day. It means maybe turning the television off a little bit earlier, maybe getting up a little bit earlier. But I think when people understand the concept of going beyond 30 minutes, it will encourage them to say, you know what, I'm going to go a little bit longer. And unfortunately, for many, many years, and again, those years were the years where all of us baby boomers, we got the word that 30 minutes a day was what we needed, and we got that from the Surgeon General. That was the exercise prescription, go out and exercise 30 minutes a day. But unfortunately, what he didn't put after that statement was 30 minutes a day for heart health. As women, when we put on our shoes and start to exercise, the first 7 to 8 minutes is only a period of time where our body mobilizes and starts to look for fat sources. And then as we go from 7 minutes to 30 minutes, the fat that we're burning during that time is the fat we've ingested in the last 24 hours. That's the first choice.